Hey everyone, throwaway account here because some of my friends lurk on this sub and I don't want them connecting the dots. I, 34M, have been married to my wife, 32F, for almost 7 years. For most of that time, I thought we were the stable couple in our friend group. You know, the ones who never fought in public, did little traditions together, and looked like we had it figured out. I thought I was lucky. The first signs of trouble were small, easy to brush off. She started spending more time on her phone, keeping it face down on the table. She suddenly cared a lot more about going to the gym, dressing up for girls' nights, and she seemed annoyed by the little things I did that never used to bother her. At first, I chalked it up to stress. She'd been complaining about work a lot, and I figured she just needed space. But looking back, I realized that was the start of everything unraveling. The way I found out wasn't some big Hollywood moment. It was more like death by 1,000 cuts. A few months back, I noticed she started locking her phone with a passcode. Weird, because for years we didn't even bother with that kind of thing. I didn't push it, but the thought stuck. Then there were the late nights. She claimed she was working on a project with her team, but she never wanted to talk about what the project actually was. One night, she came home at 2 a.m., smelling like cologne that definitely wasn't mine. I called her on it, and she snapped at me, saying I was paranoid and controlling. I let it slide because I didn't want to be that guy. The big break came completely by accident. One Saturday morning, she left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she was showering. Normally I'd never snoop, but I noticed the screen light up with a message notification. The preview was from a guy's name I didn't recognize. Something along the lines of "Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you." I swear my stomach dropped through the floor. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely click. I opened the messages, and there it was. Weeks of flirty texts, hotel bookings, inside jokes, even pictures. The kind of stuff you can't unsee once you've seen it. That was the moment I knew I wasn't crazy. She really was cheating on me. I didn't plan some grand confrontation. Honestly, I was too stunned to think straight. When she got out of the shower, I was still sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open in front of me. She froze when she saw it, then instantly went into attack mode. "What the hell are you doing with my computer?" she snapped, like I was the one crossing a line. I just stared at her and said, "Who's Ryan?" Yep, that was the guy's name. Her face changed in an instant. First shock, then anger, then this smug little smirk that made my blood boil. She rolled her eyes and said, "Oh my God, you're ridiculous. He's just a friend. You're reading too much into things." I pointed at the screen. Friends don't book hotel rooms. Friends don't send each other pictures like this. She tried gaslighting me, saying I must have hacked into her private stuff, that it was an invasion of her privacy, that I was the problem for not trusting her. When I wouldn't back down, she finally admitted it, but in the coldest way possible. She shrugged and said, "Fine, I've been seeing him, but only because you're boring now. What did you expect?" That sentence hit me like a truck. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't regret. It was pure blame shifting, like I had somehow pushed her into another guy's bed. I can't really describe the cocktail of emotions that hit me all at once. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. It was this insane mix of rage, disbelief, humiliation, and this deep gut punch of betrayal. Part of me wanted to scream at her, throw her stuff out, call this Ryan guy and rip him apart. Another part of me just wanted to curl up and cry. Instead, I just sat there numb, staring at her while she kept rattling off excuses, none of which sounded anything like remorse. She said things like, "You've gotten lazy, and you don't make me feel special anymore." She even had the nerve to say, "Ryan listens to me. He actually cares about what I want." As if years of me working overtime to provide, cooking dinner when she was too tired, and planning little weekend trips meant nothing. The worst part? I started questioning myself. Was I really boring? Had I failed as a husband? That self-doubt crept in fast, even though deep down I knew cheating was a choice, a selfish, cruel one. That first night after finding out, I didn't sleep. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling while she snored next to me like nothing happened. My mind kept replaying every smile she'd given me, every "I love you," wondering which ones were lies. It was like my whole marriage cracked open in an instant, and everything I thought was solid turned out to be quicksand. After the anger burned off, what was left was just emptiness. I felt hollow, like someone scooped out the inside of me and left only the shell. The following days were brutal. I'd go to work, sit in my office, and just stare at the screen, pretending to type. My coworkers probably thought I was sick because I barely spoke. At home, I'd find myself crying randomly. In the car, in the shower, even standing in line at the grocery store. I'm not usually a crier, but it felt like the only outlet I had. What made it worse was how normal she acted. She'd come home, chat on the phone in the other room, laugh at something on TV, like nothing had happened. No apology, no guilt, no attempt to make things right. Just cold indifference. One night, I broke down in front of her. I told her I felt like my entire world had collapsed, that I couldn't understand how she could do this to me after everything we'd built. She just sighed, rolled her eyes, and said, "God, you're so dramatic. People cheat all the time. Get over it." That line shattered me more than the cheating itself. It made me realize that whatever love she once had for me was gone. I wasn't her partner anymore. I was just an obstacle, someone to belittle while she did what she wanted. Just when I thought things couldn't get more twisted, they did. A few days after our confrontation, I noticed she was suddenly nicer, cooking dinner, asking about my day, even trying to cuddle up on the couch. At first I thought maybe it was guilt finally catching up to her. But no, it turned out to be something else entirely. One evening, she sat me down and, with a straight face, said, "I think we should try an open marriage. That way I won't have to sneak around, and you can have your fun too." I laughed at first, thinking it was some kind of sick joke, but she was dead serious. She even pulled up articles on her phone about ethical non-monogamy and expanding love, except nothing about what she was doing was ethical. She'd been lying and sneaking around for months. I told her I wanted no part of that. I believed in marriage as two people committing to each other, not bringing in side characters like we're casting a bad reality show. She got furious, called me closed-minded, and said I was trying to control her happiness. Then came the kicker. She admitted she'd already told Ryan that we were working on opening things up. In other words, she'd promised him something without even talking to me first. That was the moment I realized she wasn't just unfaithful. She was manipulative, calculating, and rewriting reality to suit her narrative. And I was just a prop in her story. After the open marriage stunt, things spiraled fast. She doubled down on the lies, telling me she barely saw Ryan anymore, even though I'd catch her sneaking out with her phone, whispering in the garage. One night I checked our joint bank account, which I'd honestly avoided doing because I didn't want to see the proof. There it was, hotel charges, fancy dinners, even a necklace I knew I hadn't bought her. When I asked about it, she laughed in my face and said, "You're pathetic, going through the finances like some detective. No wonder I had to find someone else." She twisted everything. If I got upset, she'd say I was controlling. If I asked questions, I was paranoid. If I said nothing, she accused me of not caring. It was like playing chess with someone who changes the rules every move. The final straw came when one of our mutual friends, someone I trusted, pulled me aside and admitted he'd seen her and Ryan out together. She'd told people I knew about it and was fine with it. She was literally painting me as the willing cuckold in my own social circle. That humiliation hit harder than anything else. That friend's confession was the nail in the coffin. I realized she wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting the story of our marriage to make me look weak, clueless, and complicit. I couldn't live like that. One night, while she was out with friends, which I knew really meant Ryan, I packed a bag and drove to my brother's place. I left her a note that said, "You wanted freedom. Now you have it. Don't call me." She blew up my phone the next morning. Angry voicemails, crying texts, swinging between "you'll regret this" and "please come back, I'll change." But I'd finally hit a point where her words didn't carry weight anymore. They were just noise. I called a lawyer that week. Filing for separation felt surreal, like watching myself in a movie. Part of me still hoped she'd burst in and apologize sincerely, beg for forgiveness, promise to fight for us. But that never happened. All she cared about was spinning the narrative so she didn't look like the villain. When I served her the papers, she sneered and said, "Good, now I can finally be with someone exciting." No tears, no shame, just cold dismissal of everything we'd shared. That was when I knew I made the right choice. Once the papers were filed, something inside me shifted. The sadness was still there, sure, but it wasn't the crushing weight it had been. It was like I'd stepped out of a toxic fog I didn't realize I was breathing in. I started doing little things for myself again, going to the gym, catching up with friends I'd neglected, even cooking meals I liked instead of what she always demanded. It felt strange at first, like I had to relearn who I was without her shadow looming over me. Of course, there were setbacks. Nights when I'd still cry, mornings when I'd wake up reaching for her out of habit. But every day it got a little easier. Therapy helped a lot too. It gave me a place to unpack the guilt and anger without drowning in it. What shocked me most was how many people quietly came forward and said they'd suspected something for a while but hadn't wanted to interfere. At first that hurt. Like, why didn't anyone tell me? But eventually I realized it didn't matter. What mattered was I was free now, and I was finally facing reality instead of living in her carefully crafted lie. I won't pretend it was some heroic journey. It was messy, painful, humiliating. But slowly, I started to feel like me again. Looking back now, I realized the signs were there all along. I just didn't want to see them. I loved her, trusted her, and I thought that was enough. But love doesn't excuse betrayal, and trust only works when it's mutual. The hardest part wasn't the cheating itself. It was the lies, the gaslighting, the way she made me doubt my own worth. That kind of manipulation eats away at you until you don't even recognize yourself. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone reading this, it's trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let someone convince you that you're crazy for noticing the cracks. And most importantly, don't beg someone to treat you right. If they wanted to, they would. I walked away, and yeah, it hurt like hell. But now I feel lighter. I feel like I finally get to write my own story instead of being an extra in hers. For anyone going through something similar, you're not alone, you're not weak, and you will come out stronger on the other side. Don't cling to someone who shows you over and over that they don't value you. Choose yourself.